I love the blue circle.
All right, here we go. We are live here at Sekofa Video Books and Cafe in Washington, D.C., 2714 Georgia Avenue Northwest. I'm Christina Joy, and welcome to Let's Talk Love with Dr. Shane. Okay, this is Dr. Shane Perrault. We are here talking to a Black psychologist, a marriage and family therapist out here in Greenbelt, Maryland. Um, yeah, Dr. Shane, can you talk, introduce yourself? Say hi.
Sure. Thanks for having me. But before I do, this is an amazing experience. Like when I saw Akbar, it reminded me of my childhood. My mother was a psychologist, and she always had me in places like this, around people like this. And in Greenville, we ain't got a lot of this going on. So it's just reminiscence of being a child and just some of the people that influenced me and that were really like an integral part of the community in developing us. So I thank you all for that. I'm a psychologist. I'm a marital psychologist. So if anyone out there want to ask some questions about something related to their family or something related to their marriage, I know sometimes we all get the notion that marriage ain't for black folk. I remember they had that article in the Washington Post. They asked this black kid, they really interviewed him, and they said, what do you think about marriage?
Right.
And he said, well, marriage ain't for black folk.
Right.
And it was this whole big thing. But I've worked with 6,500 couples. And one thing that I've realized in all of my work is that you don't see us on nightly news, but a lot of the people that I work with are very newsworthy. They fight for their family, they sacrifice for their family, they struggle for their family. And I kind of think of it like this. Slavery is in our history when it comes to families or many things. It's an eruption of our history. But, we will get back to where we are, and that's a big part of it. As I said, I'm founder of African American Marriage Counselor. I started my practice over 19 years ago. Since then, I've worked with 6,500 plus couples. I went to undergrad at Southern University in Baton Rouge, and I went to grad school at Ohio State University. Drop it. Not yet. Yeah.
Drop the mic.
Hey, so I just heard you mention that you said that article a few years ago, or is marriage for black people?
It was marriage is for black people, is what it was called. It was a big whole thing.
Yeah, because it was probably in response to that other book that was out, Is Marriage for White People? The How the African American Marriage Decline Affects Everyone. And I actually read that book, and honestly, no shade. No shade, but it just felt like a lot of excuses, or a lot of we are operating a business here. Get some food, get some books, get some books. This book is available online right now. It just felt like, I remember one of the solutions that the brother had proposed was that sisters need to date outside their race, and that was the solution to our issue. And I'm like, that's not the solution. That's not the solution, because his argument was that that because Black women have been put up in the sense of we're the fastest growing entrepreneurs, we're the ones now with the most jobs and things like that, that we have to either quote unquote date down or date out. And I disagree. And there's no such thing as dating down either, especially within our community, because our socioeconomic status is not really relative to how we really live. Would you agree?
I definitely agree with. Date down, date out. You got to live with this person. Day to day, every day for the next 5, 15, 25, 30 years. My solution's a little different. So my approach is basically divorce rates drop as much as 30% with an intervention. get an intervention. In addition to that, figure out how to make a better choice. So we tend to have a lot of dynamics that put us in a higher risk marriage area. So we're more likely to date with a blended family or someone has a child or a kid from another relationship or marriage. Regular divorce rate 45-50% is what it is, right? But when there's a child from another relationship or marriage, if one parent has a child, it goes up to 65. If they both do, it goes up to 70. But we don't need to panic. Divorce rate still drop as much as 30% if you get an intervention. We're least likely to get an intervention. We're least likely to go talk to somebody and get the support. Usually two people get married, they want to make it. I mean, I find most couples that come to see me don't have a will problem, they have a skill problem. And the skill is how do we listen? How do we get on the same page?
Communication.
When our emotional needs clash, like we can talk about the order,
Yeah.
but when my ish conflicts with your ish, there's a lot of ish goes down. And so it's just figuring out. I tried to be poetic and light with that. Thank you for getting that. So when a lot of ish goes down, we have to be willing to say, okay, but what's the big ish? What's the big picture?
Right.
And how do we cut a deal? So you have to do that if you marry up, if you marry in, if you marry around. You know, you have to figure out how you cut a deal because those people get divorced too.
That's right.
You know, and if it's about your marriage work and it's about, hey, how do we cut a deal?
Right.
That's a real good point. And I think a lot of it is, like you said, the skill, because, you know, doing relationships is not really something that many people want to like look into, you know, or even in regards to sex, like sex, relationships, they're not really like, let me look up information about this thing. They're more so like, this comes naturally to me. I've watched people do this, so I think I know how this goes. But a lot of people don't, and not even necessarily that they don't. It's more that they don't know how it's gonna work for them, right?
Yeah. So and let's talk about that because so a couple come in, they have a sex challenge, happens all the time. So my first question is, well, what was your sex like before? So I have something to compare it to, you know? And some people it was great, some people it was never great. That just wasn't why they made their decision to be together. So I'm not burning their sheets up. Okay, let's look at why you made the decision and let's help you get at least that version of it. Other people, they did have a phenomenal sex life. They were sexually compatible. And I'm like, well, when did it change? And usually there's an event. So I'm going to talk about something only because it's simple. So if I talk about love languages, it's simple for us all to understand. So if your love language is quality time, and theirs is gifts and physical touch, and quality time is really big to you, you're gonna feel like, no, you're not buying me. I mean, I don't mind being with you. I married you. I want to be with you, but you have to spend quality time with me. I get you got me X, Y, and Z. I love the things you've gotten me, but for me to really connect with you so that we could be together that way, we need to be together outside of the bedroom. So it's just figuring out what caused the problem and how do we remove that barrier. You know, so sometimes it's sexual compatibility, but people can usually cut a deal. But if someone's like tone deaf and can't hear nobody's needs but their own, very likely they're going to have some challenges in the bedroom. It's just a matter of when, really. So it's figuring out what was it like before and what interfered with that and how do we change that part of the dynamic. So one day she's going to be a marital psychologist. We were talking before.
Oh, yeah.
So this is kind of like, I'm this is that part too. So if you hear that part,
Okay.
but she just got her MSW
Okay.
and we're going to talk about it after.
Yes, this is literally like,
This is your couch. This is your couch.
this is like a couch. This is for me, y'all. This event wasn't for y'all. It was for me. It was, I'm just
I love it.
see you later. And yeah, say Thank you for that. So let's dig into the book. Because I started it and it's really good.
Well, thank you.
One, now I will say this. This cover makes it embarrassing to carry around. I'm not gonna lie. Because
I never thought about that.
it does. It really does. Like, 'cause, you know,
See
people
what's
like,
on the cover,
like,
sure.
oh my God. So this is the cover, right?
Does
know,
she
you
look
got the-
pressed or
like,
something? What is it?
it's just like, I think it's the sister with the thought bubble, and you know, it's, I don't know. It's like if this looked more academic, then I would feel better carrying this around. However, especially because the context of this book is more academic than it looks like on the outside. And as someone who looks at book covers all day, like if someone's like, "Oh, here's this book," I would be like, "Are you sure? I should read this." But I promise you, when I opened it, I was like, "Oh, this is good."
Don't judge a book
Okay,
by its cover.
Okay, don't judge a book by its cover, but judge a book by its cover. But people judge books by their covers, and that drives book sales. Okay, that I need to say that, but
But as long as we're there, no, because it's important. Like, so the book I wrote then and the book I write now, the book I wrote right now probably won't be as good. I'd be more marketing driven. I'd be saying, "He did that to you again." You know, it'd be something that you know.
yeah.
Well, because Kevin Samuels and different people.
Uh-oh.
As much as we may look at them, him and Steve Harvey, and say what we said, they're great marketers.
They are.
And they know how to reach us, and they write to the person at the 10th grade education level, and they drive their message in a compelling way. We may say, well, it's not this, it's not that. Well, that's probably accurate, but they understand how to reach the average person. As I've gotten older as a practitioner and marketer, I understand that part of it. Yeah, I probably would dominate them just a little.
Would you? I don't think they need that though. Like,
No,
honestly, I don't think so.
Right.
I don't mean it
You know?
in that way, but it's just there's a import to talking comedy
Yeah.
and talking in a way that the average person could relate to, and I've just gotten better at that. That's all I'm really saying.
But I don't think it's not that this isn't accessible in the language. It's not accessible. Like, it's very accessible. I think the examples are great. I think that I think maybe not the average person would know about the research that you use,
Mhm.
but it's valuable research, you know? But then also, like, as someone who studies psychology and social work and relationships, I'm like, yes, I would use this book.
Well, I took a lot of the concepts they use in psychology and I applied them to us. You know, a lot of times we're just not in those academic halls with ivory towers. And the people that are in the ivory towers don't make their way back to us. And that's just long been a battle. It's like, what do I choose? You'll see.
Right? No, I'm seeing that right now because, you know, we have books like The Spirit of Intimacy, like, and I know that's I haven't read it yet, but I know that that's a book grounded in African psychological research, you know, like that. So it's like that's something I would probably reference in my book one day. But I like the way you used your references, like, for instance, as far as single black, the trope of the single black woman, right? You used Nzinga and Nefertiti as two, like, completely diametrically opposed, like, strong black women. Like, Nzinga was single in her entire reign, and she took on males. She had her male suitors fight each other to compete for her love, essentially. And she never took on one, like, primarily. She was out here, you know. She was doing her thing. But Nefertiti had her husband, and I cannot pronounce.
I cannot.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not even gonna try to pronounce that. But she had her husband, and they were equal partners. They were like an egalitarian couple, which is common for Black folks. And the way I guess identified them were like, Nzinga is like Miss Independent, right? And Nefertiti is Miss Interdependent.
Mhm.
And I feel like as I would say for myself, growing up, over these past 29 years, there's been a lot of push for Miss Independent, but not Miss Interdependent. And it's very much so pushed in our community. So how do you think that that's affecting our relationship?
I think it's important. So let me just briefly talk about those two historical figures. So there's a movie about Nzinga now. What's the movie called? Woman King. The Woman King. That's who that's about. But she invaded Portugal. Her people were never enslaved. She was an amazing leader, and she just made the decision, I don't want to do that. Because of that, she didn't leave the heir, and after she died, they were conquered. Nefertiti, Akhenaten, and they left King Tut, what we all talk about, they left a legacy. So it was just two different approaches, and I was very amazed by how one left a legacy and the other didn't, but they were both very important. And I think, so this is where I use some of the psychological concepts that we use in Howard University, all these schools right there that don't make it out those ivory towers. So fasten your seatbelts a little here. So I talk about Black women, right? Black women are seen as aggressive, seldom even assertive. What other terms would you use? If anyone knows, how you describe
Mean.
Mean,
Yeah.
Strong-willed.
strong-willed,
Say all of us.
ball
buster. Yeah, I've been called a ball buster.
They be saying
You
it.
seem like you were thinking
So,
something you attempted to say.
determined, right?
Determined. What would you-
Compartmentalized.
I'm sorry.
Compartmentalized.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Plan.
Okay, strategic. Okay, you were gonna say something?
Long suffering.
Long suffering. That's deep. Women are taught to be the muse of the world. Carry everyone's burden but your own, right?
And then men have a problem with because we have stipulations. You know what
Okay,
I'm saying? Standards.
okay.
And the Black man has a problem with having those standards.
I won't let you speak for all Black men.
No, I'm not speaking for all
Okay,
Black
I
men.
don't think you mean to. I'm just saying, you
No,
just said
yeah,
it.
but
that it could be
the ones that
misinterpreted.
I've came across, they have a problem when it comes to, a standard, or what their role is supposed to be in their relationship.
Okay.
It's like they want the woman, to keep her mouth shut and just be submissive, don't have an opinion,
I like your opinion.
Driven.
So let's talk driven. So let's talk about all this constellation of things that we're talking about, right? Boy, would I pick her for a mate? Why would she end up that way? What in life makes Black women end up like this? A lot of places, right? And I thought about it. So in psychology, it's called self-psychology. So self-psychology looks at id, ego, superego. So you all have seen Superman before, right? Clark Kent, regular person, alter ego, Superman, right? What I realized with a lot of Black women, and tell me if I'm wrong, ladies, is as little girls, you're taught the cavalry isn't coming for you. Girl, you better get your own. Learn from your aunts, learn from your sisters, learn from your teachers, maybe even learn from your daddy. No. He can stay up and play game, but you better study. Because there ain't no cavalry coming for you. Like their mothers love their sons and raise their daughters. The cavalry's not coming. So as a little girl, it's kind of painful to accept the cavalry ain't coming for you, isn't it? It's coming for her, coming for Betsy. Why ain't it coming? It's coming for Missy Ann. Why ain't it coming for me? And I found that, like Clark Kent and Superman, as little girls, well, I got to develop this alter ego. So we practice this character. So we don't have to look vulnerable. So we don't have to be taken advantage of so that we could make it. And when we're testing in this ground, so instead of the little kitty cat, we have this tigress.
Yeah.
And she's a force to be reckoned with, right, ladies?
That's right.
She's fierce. She's fierce. And it causes a lot of miscommunication. In relationships, it does, because that wasn't a purr I just heard. So it doesn't invoke something in me that a purr does. A purr invokes, let me rescue you, let me save you. Scratches on my arms and I'm bleeding profusely. It's like, whoa, 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 I could get hurt here by you. And so it causes a lot of miscommunication. And those are some of the type of psychological things that I do in my book, where I bring those principles for us and kind of apply them to us. Any comments on that?
Yeah, because I'm sorry. Go ahead, Judge. Yeah. My thing is why. No, okay. I'm trying to figure out why do I have to do that, even though growing in a household, because my mother, I have a brother and his two sisters. Yeah, she babied him. You know, he's the youngest. But if you look at him, he needs to be babied because he can't stand on his own 2 feet. My mother was a strong woman. My grandmother was a strong woman. My aunts are strong women, very successful women, right? But they married, they had children, but they did not have to not be who they were because of a miscommunication of the man that they're with. They appreciated their strength. And I think what it is with women like that, like myself, we are picking the wrong mates. We are picking mates that we feel like we got to rescue. You know what I'm saying? We need to be with that strong mate that's just as strong as I am, that's going to give that equality to the relationship. And he's not going to feel intimidated by my strength. He's going to embrace my strength and encourage me to be more strong.
Okay. So can we exchange here?
Yeah.
No, because it's like I hear everything you're saying.
Yeah.
I hear the power of it. You feel very passionate about what you're saying, right?
Right.
Why are you so passionate about it?
Because why am I so passionate about it? Because I was married 16 years and my husband died in October. And being married to him 16 years, I wanted to leave, but then, I loved it. There was a lot of things that I wanted to do in that marriage, right? And I didn't do it because it brought problems in the marriage. He didn't want me to have my independence, even though I worked. I'm a constant student, but he still wanted me in that role with him, under him, depending on him, doing this for him. And when he gets upset, he'll take this back, he'll take that back. But lucky for me, I reached the 10-year mark.
Okay.
So you can't take nothing back from me.
So can I ask you a question? And I'm asking everyone else.
But it's running through now, going through that, and guess what?
I want to ask you a question.
Okay, good. That's what.
Because I want us to learn from what you're offering us.
Yeah.
Because some of it is your individual situation, some of it is general knowledge. So now, when you listen to her originally and you listen to her passion, that's how Black women are misunderstood. Because you might hear a lot of the things you describe rather than someone that really has a lot of give and take. 16 years, that's a long time to be married. 16 years, they had challenges, they had things where there was emotional conflict, but that's one aspect of her personality. And for a lot of Black women, we judge them by one aspect and we miss out on who else they are. And I think that's where a lot of the damage to Black women gets done. Because we're this person that developed this alter ego. We're also everything else. What was that book that you had? What was that book that someone was up there and it wasn't you, Joe? She was reading this book about Black women will save the world.
Oh, April Ryan.
That's right.
April Ryan.
I wanted to.
And I saw that and I was like, wow, that's a great title.
Yes.
So I'm just saying, it's like I want us to learn from you because I think you figured something else out. Am I correct?
Well, yeah. So at that time, my thing was keep the peace. You see what I'm saying? So I can still be who I am, right? And still be with him. But when I want to be who I am, just not make him a part of it. You see what I'm saying? So it's kind of like I'm living two lives. I'm being this person over here with, hanging out with people like Akbar that's sleeping over there because that's one of my passions, being a part of the Black Panther Party because we do have strong sisters in the Black Panther Party. Matter of fact, when the Black Panther Party first began, majority of the members were women. They were not men. Okay? So stuff like that. And then I enjoy my spirituality. And when on my altar, I have women on my altar. And I promote that. He goes around, my husband used to go around there trying to burn my figures, all kind of stuff. Anything to keep me down, you know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, he died in October. But when he died in October, I'm not saying it's good for somebody to die, but it was kind of glad. Because now I don't have to be that person anymore. I can be me 100%. Right? But then guess what happened? I turned around and picked someone that acts just like him. So where is the problem at? So it has to still be something that I need to do more work on myself for me to go back to a same individual that kept me under wraps. And I date someone else just like that with the same characteristics.
She answered her question before when you actually said that we need to do a better job of picking.
Picking each other. Right.
So you did answer it, but is that what you meant, brother, by compartmentalized? Because she had different segments of her
breaking it down. What's your name?
I'm just a lover Sankofa. It's Jeanette. But no, I hadn't.
You travel with me?
But I hadn't heard. I know. I think I knew what you meant, but.
No,
Is that what you meant when you said the strategic? More strategic than because women have many sides. So that's what I thought you meant by compartmentalized. So that's all.
You coming with me? But yeah, I think you're correct. But so I'm just gonna say this to you. I'm gonna let her ask some questions. Maybe you're choosing good too. Maybe the men that do. I'm not saying anyone should be suppressed. But I think there are other things that go with that work for you. I don't think you say, boy, let me find the worst trait I can find.
Right.
And that's it. Sometimes other things go with those traits. And it's about figuring out, what do I want? What traits work for me? You're going to be something I don't want. It sounds like you're a very creative and free thinker just looking at your artwork. And everyone's not going to be able to resonate with all of us, but we make a decision, okay, these are deal breakers, you're off the table, but these things I can live with. But it's good that you're smart enough to say, these aren't negotiable, I just get them in other people. And if you don't trust me, you can't deal with me, well, now that's a deal breaker. Did you have some questions you wanted to ask?
This kind of brings me to the part I was reading in your book about alpha men and alpha women, beta men, and he said that, which I found interesting, was that many people think that alpha women should go with alpha or would go with beta men because they're more passive or whatever. But you asserted that that's not necessarily true because an alpha woman can be with an alpha man as long as he's not trying to suppress her alpha. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because at the end of the day, like, let's look at, you use Beyonce and Jay-Z a lot as an example, but that's a decent example as far as like an alpha woman and an alpha man in some sense. I see Janae's face over there like, I don't know about that.
Alpha relationship, are they?
Everyone has a strong
but
he, I would say, her no. She's more beta.
She more beta.
You think so?
Yeah.
She seems in them videos, she seems like she out.
She
like, you can't steal my soul. I don't know.
But that's why we have diversity in the room.
Right.
Also, you're seeing somebody that chose somebody pretty young, and they were able to come.
So he groomed her. That's why I can't see her being alpha.
You don't think alpha females can be groomed?
No. I can't. No, now that I'm not disagreeing. I think yes, quite a few have been.
Now the
groomed.
question is, should we be groomed?
Yeah, exactly.
Is the
Come on, that's the
question.
wrong
But,
verbiage.
you know,
But
I
men
don't-
get groomed too.
Uh,
Men get groomed
Oh,
too.
what?
All right, like it, watch it.
No.
They do. To her ideal, to your ideal relationship, that is groomed.
Well, you groom the man
Yes.
you're with.
Right.
So
No,
look,
yes.
I go my outlet.
Okay, groomed, I don't know, but trained, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Let's go with
Let's give it a semantics,
Well,
right?
Yes.
I said
No,
groom.
no, wait. You said woman
I said
trained.
groom because she was so young. I said groom because she was so young.
How many years is Jay-Z older than Beyonce? 11 years? I didn't know he was that much older.
That's why I used the word groom.
Oh, okay, groom, yeah.
And groom and trained are one and the same.
Well,
That part-
what
They can be, yes.
I don't know about when I say trained, I'm actually teaching you how I am. You see what I'm saying? So when I'm being honest with you and I'm being upfront and I'm giving you all the truth, right? And I'm letting you know, hey, I don't like those type of things. This is how I am. Certain things you can't do in my home. I'm letting you know these things, right? Because I'm being honest with you. But then you turn around and you do totally the opposite of what you know I don't like. So I would call I'm letting you know how I am. Now, if you can't deal with my training, you want to call it, then you need to get stepping.
Okay.
Because you know what I'm
Can I
saying?
challenge you on something?
Oh, okay.
Because I think how you speak, and I love your passion, it misrepresents who you are. I think you choose which hill to die on. That strategic part that he was talking, I think you're strategic. You think, I ain't dying here, ain't dying on that. Some people can't pick, but you pick what hill to die on. Setting your boundaries and being
Yeah,
clear,
my boundaries,
that
being my
may be
clear, yes.
one of them. But that's something we have to do because we do train people how to
How
teach
to
us.
teach us, respect
Yeah.
us, treat us all.
Yeah, that could be good or that could be bad. Because you notice women that have great relationships, they always have great relationships. I mean, men that have great relationships always have great relationships. People that have great relationships generally always have great relationships because in life, it's not what you're attracted to alone. It's not what's attracted to you alone. It's also what you repel. Someone says something crazy to somebody that has a great relationship. Check please. They call it an Uber. Let me get up out of here. Where some people are like, well, I hadn't thought about that. Well, maybe you all got friends. We've all done it.
Yeah.
I forgot to say, but I never thought.
Yeah. You
Y'all
consider.
brought me 2 times.
Yeah, I had
I just get
a
here.
client come in the other day and she was talking about what had happened with her husband and we were talking about it. And I said, well, would you consider going back? She said, well, he would have to do X, Y. Oh, you would. You have, and then she's like, well, I need to trust he's telling me who he is. He's told you. He said, look, there's going to be 2 of you. And if that's what you want, that's fine. Marriage is whatever 2 people agree on. If that's what you want, fine. But you can't handle him being with someone else because it makes you feel it just tears you apart. So what's there to think about? And so it's not just what we attract, it's what we repel and what we don't repel. And that's the bigger part of it.
And I have a problem with consistency as well. You know what I'm saying? And, and that bothers me big time. Okay, all of a sudden, one day.
So let's tie that into another question because it's like
Okay.
she has some questions that she prepared. She set it up. So go ahead.
So, I noticed that books like this are usually aimed at women, sisters in this case. Where's the male version of this book? I want to know that.
So I got that question. I went on. I was on the Roland Martin show, and the women came at me on that question. So many of you, I be writing this for myself.
Might be your answer.
We'll read power relationship books, the 48 Laws of Power, because we think about, okay, in my business, my professional life, who I need to become. We're fortunate in that your expense in many ways Well, there's a lot of y'all that got going on, and we don't. That's not an area we feel we have to invest in. We do.
Oh,
I'm being honest, and it's an arrogance too. No, it's an arrogance, but it's a peaceful arrogance.
I don't want to hear
It's
what
not
we understand what
Huh? Go ahead.
Peaceful arrogance.
Yeah.
I didn't say it was peaceful. I said it was an arrogance.
Okay.
I said it's a truthful arrogance. I didn't make that arrogance up. I didn't set up our dynamics in society. I just write about them. So me writing to black men a book, I've never had a black man go, boy, how do I do better in relationships? We just don't, unless they ain't getting no play and they're like, man, I need some support. This ain't going well. How do I up my game? Help me out. We'll get that book, but we just don't. So I'd be writing a book for someone and there's nobody to read it.
Now, would you say
Do
this?
we think there's no one to read that? I just don't think we allow for that.
Either way. So
Wait, not either way.
no, let me be honest with you about just one other person. I'd rather sell hungry people hamburgers than try and sell some people that ain't hungry food. You know, I mean, that's just who I am. Because right, the book is a very long proposition.
Well, can I say something about that? Because
But I don't want to disrespect what you're saying because I think what you're saying is important. I just haven't seen that. I don't know how to do that. If you got a way to do it and market it, come talk to me about it. We can figure it out. I just haven't seen us have a thirst for us. That's me being honest. I could be disingenuous and say something else, but that's me being honest.
can I just say something about that?
Please do.
Especially dealing with black men. Okay, they first of all don't like going to the doctor. Okay, they don't like talking about their feelings. All right, a lot of times they keep their stuff bottled up. Sometimes they are not sure on how to express themselves because, like you talked about, how the black woman was raised, that black man was raised like, hey, you're not supposed to cry. You're not supposed to show your emotion, right? You're supposed to be strong. You know what I'm saying? And so he grows up emotionless. And then when he wants
I
to
would say
express
emotionless, but not expressive. But I wouldn't say emotionless.
Okay.
You'll get
Well,
that
he has
sense.
that, but it won't be recognized like a woman, like from a woman. And then sometimes when he is showing his emotion, it comes out physical.
Okay.
So then you have the domestic things going on.
Okay, so I just want to take what you're saying because you just said something that's important. So we do think men are emotional. Men are way more emotional than women. When men are cutting off, so you're just being emotional. I'm like, you really know what that means? We're way more emotional than women. He cut his mic off, you see?
Oh, he just cut the mic off.
You that, brother.
You heard it right there.
I'll give you an example.
Y'all need to be in the building, y'all.
I'll give you an example. Whoa, a brother could be dating on brain surgery, right? Smart, brilliant, all this stuff. And he's at the bar, and he sees this woman blankety blank out, just showing it. He'll walk past her, be with her, and feel like he's got a better deal. That's completely emotional. I bagged the best deer out there, the best buck out there. I got the biggest catch out there. That's emotion. That's pride. That's arrogance. Women usually make
That's
much better.
narcissistic.
It might be a lot of things. I'm just trying to say women usually make much better decisions than usually. I'm saying we're very emotional. We're not taught to deal with our emotions. We're taught to have a different relationship with our emotions. And that answers your question about the book. I don't think that book's going to sell. I don't know
I
who
think
will
that
buy
men
it.
should have a safe place so they can,
But we don't. I'm going to give you an example. So I'm going to ask you, man. You ain't got to raise your hand. You can blink at me if you want. Okay. Have you ever had a woman cheat on you?
He said yeah. He said
we
yeah.
can't reveal nobody. It's a safe place, right?
Oh, you can't reveal.
Oh,
Okay.
Lord.
No. They're making a bigger point. The point that I'm making, women are far better prepared for infidelity than men are. Your girlfriend's been cheated on, your aunt, your teacher, if you got a female teacher, possibly your mother, like everybody you know, they pick you up, they talk to you, they have a spa day. I mean, they just keep coming. They're gonna
So who's better cheating?
I'll answer that question next.
Oh,
I'll answer that question next.
You need to get a woman knocked out there in with it.
But I'm not. When did I say that was
Yeah,
sexist?
you did.
You ever
You
heard
said- well, you get ready to say women are better cheaters.
No.
Oh.
Actually,
let's
I'm-
reserve that.
Yeah,
But
we're
actually, I'm going
reserve
to shock
that
you on
to
that. I'm
Okay,
going to
okay.
shock you on that answer. But you're right to think that. But that's not what I'm
Well, you said you're right to think that.
But let me say this, men, we get cheated on. Your boys, they'll come by. They'll take you to happy hour, and they'll even get you a meal. But at the end of that meal, the end of that round of drinks, treatment's over. And your female friends are worse. And you could have gotten them through all kinds of stuff. They're like, "You taking this? Wow, put your foot down. What type of man are you? What's wrong with you?" All the women out here, we don't get them support. I mean, we're not taught to put our emotions out there and deal with them. That's not a message that's rewarded for us. That's why I said the 48 laws of power, because it teaches us how to deal with our emotions and how to manage them with other people, how to be more competitive. So to answer your question, the answer that you thought I was going to give, and the answer that I do give are different. So in studies, infidelity, 48 women, men 52.
They cheat.
Cheat rate
Oh my
in
God,
marriages.
that's a lot of cheating.
52%, 48%, not a big difference, but women cheat different than men cheat. Men get playmates, women get soulmates.
Oh.
Like if a woman is cheating with you emotionally, this person is the good. They ain't just getting no random person. We're not leaving. We're not leaving. Y'all are like, if I'm at this place and I'm entertaining someone else, I'm thinking, is this going to happen? So I'm just saying, there's just some differences. They're just not the ones you think. There's not this big discrepancy like you would think. Actually, it's pretty close.
So my question is not more or less number based, but skill
Yeah, we know
based.
what
Who is
we
better?
know what
Who's
she was
more
asking.
skillful
And that's why
in
he
the art
answered
of
it the
cheating?
way he did.
So it's gonna.
Get him.
No, he's asking an important
No,
question.
The men,
Our part's asking an important question. Women are better. Y'all are. We're not good liars. We're horrible liars.
No, men are just stupid.
We're stupid. We're stupid. So they're good liars and they're bad liars. Y'all want to hear the difference between a good liar and a bad liar?
yeah, that's the
That's
question.
right.
It is. It's true. So I'll give you the bad liar first, right? Bad liar drops his girlfriend, his wife off at the airport, pulls off smiling. He's good. He has a good time. Sunday rolls around. He's like, oh man. He goes to the gas station. He notices this long hair. He goes and rips it up. He's like, God, there's got to be some more. And he says, okay, I know what I'm going to do. So he goes, he vacuums her side of the car. Y'all ladies know what he's doing right now. He vacuums her side of the car. He tries to adjust the chair just right. He takes her perfume, sprays it over her seat. He goes to pick her up. She gets in the seat. She says, this is odd. And why is on my side of the car clean, right? You know what I'm saying? And I've been gone 10 days. My cologne, my perfume does not last that long. Bad cheater. Stupid cheater. You know what a good cheater does? Same situation. He's in the gas station. Okay. He goes, he gets some gas, he puts it in a little bit on his hand, so it's that scent, right? He takes the seat, he lays it all the way back, slides it back, he puts on rap music. All right, and he goes, he picks her up. She's like, what's wrong with that chair? Bernie. Yeah, he's 6'4". I see y'all been listening to rap. That's the good liar and the bad liar. We're not good. We're like, you talked about that thoughtful, strategic part. We're sloppy.
Men should be lying in the first place.
That's another story though. But we leave a trail of breadcrumbs. Women don't. Boy, they're smart. They're disciplined and they are thoughtful. So that's the answer.
She's most skillful. You got that. You 1 point for the score.
This conversation went a little left.
I give you my best
We're
answer.
going to talk about love, y'all. Let's keep it together. The unity. Okay. Now I will say though, there are, and these aren't necessarily new relationship patterns, but they're now more, publicized, more prominent in our society. We see an uprising of polygamy and polyamory in our community. And I offer that this is not new because this is something that we've been doing since we were captured, and brought here. And now that it's popularized amongst the mainstream community, now all of a sudden it's not necessarily as taboo as it once was, And I won't say it's completely out there as far as like a fully accepted relationship pattern per se, but it's definitely becoming that way. So how is that changing our relationship dynamics in terms of whether or not we even choose to get married?
I think you definitely are seeing it. It comes into my office a lot more, but I don't know African culture is monogamy. I think it's
Right,
really
that's
more
what-
polygamous.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly
And
it.
so, you offend people when you have these conversations, because we all have this view of what other people's marriage should be. I've come to believe marriage is whatever two people agree on, because that's their life and they live it and whatever works for them. And you'd be surprised what works, and it's not a reflection of someone being weak or less than. My problem is when someone lies and they got a whole different situation going on here or there. So a lot of people in those relationships, has been my experience, feel like they're at least honest.
Yeah.
And they say, I rather we have the truth. And if this is what you can live with, and this is what I can live with, and we don't lie about it, it's fine.
Yeah.
So I
Honest.
work with a lot of couples. I tend to be more fluid in terms of people got to make the decision and commit to something they can live to, and not what other people can live to.
Can a alpha man who is monogamous man make it with a beta woman who is poly?
I haven't had that combination, but yeah, I mean, if two people agree, just alpha males are wired. I mean, let's not look at people because that complicates it. But look at a population of dogs, cats, bucks. Alpha males, they get their choice and they tend to populate with several people, and the species is kind of dependent on them doing it. I know y'all gonna, I don't want to record this and say he said blankety blank, but that's what happens in nature. If you're talking about alpha, so a lot of alpha males in our cult, they think the same way. I'm not here to say whether it's good or bad. I'm saying if you don't want that, don't date that person. Because even if they don't tell you, you know on some level, and ask yourself if that's what you want. Because wanting someone to be something that they're not just isn't going to work.
Exactly. I think women should have two husbands,
They should have one.
more than one husband.
Oh, okay. So poly.
Yeah, but see, a lot of the poly relationships, it's always the man having more than one wife. Why can't a woman have more than one husband?
But your brother just referenced the situation.
I thought he was talking about, yeah, the
So-
beta
so-
one. No, but I'm not a beta woman though. I'm an alpha.
So my answers don't
You say I'm
necessarily.
an alpha woman.
That's the way my answers don't.
No,
Okay then.
I'm not marrying him.
Okay then.
My answers aren't necessarily for the men or the women in this audience as much as marriage is what two people agree, period. I do have situations like that where women, and they say, hey, this is what I need. If you want me, this could work. If you can't, it won't. Did you have another question?
Let's get back to the book. So one of the concepts you had used was this PAC, PAC, the parent ego state, integrating adult ego state and the child ego state. Can you talk about that in reference to the relationship patterns you were
Yeah,
also discussing?
so earlier someone had mentioned, this is how I use it. Earlier someone had mentioned, boy, I'm with these men and I gotta fix them. I think that's Ray did. And it's like, so there was this whole psychology. Y'all remember I'm okay, you're okay? Some of them may remember back in the 80s. I'm okay, you're okay. This whole thing and everyone talked about that. Sometimes what I've seen is I'm okay, you're not okay, but I can fix you. that puts the person that's doing the fixing in the parental role, and it puts the other person in the child role. And those things seldom equal out. They're not designed to equal out. You didn't get in that relationship because you wanted an equal partner. There was something about fixing things that was as important to you, possibly more important than them to being fixed. So we didn't start out with clean hands. Nobody started out with clean hands. And so, boy, it's hard to get in that way at the end. And so now you have somebody, we're not set up to be equal, but you're supposed to be the man or the woman, or whatever that case is. And it just usually leads to a lot of frustration. I'm not saying, so some of you may say, well, what about this brother that's on his way? And that's fine too, but the biggest predictor of future success is past success. You know, if someone has a great plan and you buy into that plan and they have a history of some of the things going well and the plan makes sense to you, that's not the person I'm talking about. I'm talking about someone that's just kind of maybe broken, and it's okay if that works for you, but no, you're not doing them a favor. You got in that to do yourself a favor. And y'all gonna probably throw tomatoes at me with this part. Kind of duck, yeah.
Yeah, you would.
No one has a comment on that?
You're correct.
Tell me about that.
Yes. When the person, they make all of the demands, and then when you try to come back and negotiate or speak, it's like you're not heard. It's like, that person is, well, this is the way it's going to be. And then you try to come back and say, well, you try to show that what you're doing the same thing that you're saying, no, I'm not. So it's like you said, it's uneven. And I'm saying for me, it's like I'm not being heard at all.
And that's what happens
If
a
you're
lot
talking
to
about me,
me.
you don't need to be heard. My thing is,
I gotta follow up on. I gotta follow up on.
man in the relationship and he the woman.
Tariq.
That's what I feel like, to be honest.
Okay, but let's talk about
So
that.
I don't know.
No. You took it there. You took it there, so can we talk about it? So I'm gonna say this, and this is the part of me you're not gonna like. Never do that to a grown man.
Right.
I say you're the woman. I mean that.
No, that's the way.
I didn't say what. I didn't say what was.
That's truth.
Miss Desiree.
Call it spade a spade.
Miss Desiree, I've been extremely respectful in this other because I think you have a lot to offer.
Yeah.
You're just not gonna get the best out of it.
Well, then I don't need it.
And that might be
and
fine
that's
too.
exactly where we are right now. And one of the reasons why, actually, I was supposed to be coming to this class alone, but we ended up at that demonstration at Freedom Plaza, and reparations. It was cool, and he was there. I wasn't planning on meeting there, but he called and said, because I was hanging out with Art Bar today. And I was gonna come in, so he happens to tag along because he is on a real thin line when it comes to our relationship. Because I'm ready to get rid of him for real.
Okay.
Yeah, you on?
So I'm gonna do all of us a favor.
Go ahead.
No, that's a different part of the show, right? That's
I was supposed to be
No,
here,
but
but
This is
Hey,
the
we gonna cut
commercial
your mic
break.
off.
This is the commercial break. We'll
This
be
is
right
commercial
back.
break. Desiree, this is commercial break. But I'm just saying this. Those situations don't work. But I thank you for bringing that up. It's too personal for us to talk in this. I don't like people to put themselves out in a public place, but we can discuss it. So what is your next question? Everybody saying commercial break.
But Dr. Shane, to your credit, I appreciate the advice that was given, and I think that's all he is saying. How you choose to use it and play it strategic, compartmentalize, or whatever. That's for you to do. But I respect what you're saying publicly about how we ought to deal with someone we care about, because nobody wants to be outed. So I respect what you did. I respect that. I respect how you offered. You didn't shut it down. You just said you would rather it not be aired out like that. So I receive it.
So, let's discuss mistrust.
Ooh,
Mistrust among sisters and brothers, because one, it's been designed, right? Like it's definitely designed at this point in the game. Um, and I think that not only is it designed, it's perpetuated not just by us, but by the larger society. And the larger society doesn't have to do much anymore because we are pushing it so far. Like we believe these scripts that men are this, women are that, this, that, and the third. At the end of the day, we're still living within a white supremacist context, and we all know that this is a conscious community. This is Sankofa, but we still operate as if these scripts are our life, as if these scripts were how we were supposed to be, and this is not. This is not the case. So with all this mistrust, how are we supposed to get back to trusting each other if everyone's believing these scripts?
It's a very important question. I think it's one we have to deal with. I don't have a one size fits all answer. I think whenever I think about trust, I think about personally being honest with myself first. I can't expect you to trust me if I'm not being real with me, because you're not going to be real with me. If we need to have a tough conversation, let's have a tough conversation. But let's also look at our role in it. If I'm picking spouses or partners over and over I don't trust, well, what does that say about me? What do I need? What questions do I need to answer? If I'm picking people that suppress me, if I'm picking people that whatever blank is to me, I have to be honest with myself and say, no, they're not the only one getting something out of that. What am I getting out of that? And let me change that, because there are people out there that I don't have to deal with that with. Let me give them a shot. That's my safest answer. I don't know how to change the world, but I think if we can change us, we can change our world. I like that. I use that as a man in the mirror.
Now I want to open it up to y'all, even though y'all been this conversation the whole time.
If I could interject this time, I wanted to go back to the reference you made, and to your betterment. I'm kind of grateful that you do stand apart from the Harveys and the deceased. I forget the gentleman's name. Because you're the doctor, right? Because you're the doctor, and they come from it with that different level of pedigree, not using pedigree as if they have a real degree, but to the point that yes. So I'm kind of glad that you're on a different scale, So I say that to credit you, because I get what you're saying about marketing, hey, but sometimes that we stay in this dog eat dog world, and sometimes we need to be above the fray. So if you're above the fray with that, then that's a breath of fresh air. I wanted to go and ask the question, because we're constantly hearing that marriage is a business. And playing into this, what corporate and capitalism has brought into the bedroom. And I can't stand when I hear people say, well, it's a partnership, and there's a part of it that's a partnership, yes, if that's how you want to take it. But I feel that so many people are really coming into this marriage being so business minded, and really taking away from the sensitivities that are only had in a business. Corporations, we see what the Musks are doing with Twitter. See, that's how business works, right? I don't care about you. I don't care about your family, so I'm cutting you jobs by, so what's on? When you're in an intimate relationship with a person, I am feeling you. You are feeling me. So you see when I'm about to cry, and you hold yourself back because you don't want that. How do we take back from that stigma or image of this being business and really get back to the souls of connecting with one another, because I think that's also harming why we're constantly clashing. I shouldn't have to look at you and say, oh, well, you ain't bringing 50 racks. Like, what? When do we do that? Why are we doing that? It's only eating us alive, and it's not fostering not only community, but it's not what we, even back to the slave ship, that's not how we supported one another.
Right.
So help me with this, breaking down this business-minded marriage.
I think, like many things, some people meet closer in the middle than others. Clearly, you're able to recognize, there's a business aspect to it. There's a business aspect to it. We gotta pay bills, we gotta live our lives. But we also have to accept that some jobs just pay more than others. And that doesn't mean that you're a better spouse. It doesn't mean that you should necessarily be a spouse even in charge of money. But there's something to that. It's just when our needs conflict, can we cut a deal and create win-win outcomes versus win-lose? A lot of people create win-lose, and the people with more money tend to be more likely to create it where they're in the win and the other person's in the lose. And successful marriages create win-wins. And if you're not creating a win-win, a lose-win, a win-lose, all of those are lose-loses. So we have to find a way to, even if you don't get what you want, I made you feel heard, I made you feel acknowledged, and I gave you enough of what you need. So it's just about cutting a deal and finding a way to be able to leave as friends and feel like, hey, agree or disagree, I felt you respected me. And to me, that's how we do that. Did you have a question? You seem so wise. Oh, you look very distinguished and beautiful. Thank you for coming. Did you have a question?
I just had a comment back when we were discussing the strong woman or the different ways that Black women are looked at or seen in this country, and Black men are seen in this country. And it was just from the lens, I just returned from Ghana. And I was in a village that was not in the city, so it had a lot of the traditions that have been passed down over the generations. And I went through a specific cultural ritual that they had. I'm saying this only because the one thing I noticed while I was there, going through this process, was I specifically remember, just distinctly, the interactions between the men and the women. And there was such a reverence in both regards, but the men were, well, I was dealing with elders. I mean, there were elders that were doing some things for me. And there was so much reverence between the men and the women, period. To each other, and but more so, it wasn't intimidated. It was like no one was it was like everyone understood their roles, and everyone respected each other for their roles, and it was just absolutely beautiful. And I realized that is a direct result of their culture not being taken from them versus our experience here, where we were maybe pitted against each other, and Black men, had to witness all kinds of atrocities happening to us and not being able to do anything about it, and feeling, and then, being demeaned, and so therefore, they felt the need over all these 300 years to to assert their place, and it just was such a start. So coming back and remembering that and being so taken by that, it was such a relief to see it. It was such a beauty to see it. There was no competition. There were roles, and everyone just they loved each other in those roles. It was really beautiful, and I just wish that we could have survived that. We could have had that peace. We have been obviously astronomically strong to have endured what we endured, and still have half a brain at this point. And we are survivors. We are survivors of severe trauma. Our spirits are survivors of severe trauma, and I think we're just surviving, and the best way which is what you spoke about, the whole cat thing. We've been taught we're teaching our men to survive in a different way than our women. That's just I have many names. I was just given another name while I was there. So I'll give my name that they gave, my title, Nana Abena Ohema.
And what's your other name?
My other name, Alicia, Ayana, Cook, Amaka Shandez.
We got some beautiful names.
I'm in.
I thank you for sharing that, because I think that is the truth. You know, that is the truth. And I don't think I can add to what you said. I'm sitting there thinking about how, and I don't know that I could, because I think you broke it down really well in terms of being pitted together and all of the things that went with that. So I thank you for sharing that.
Trying to get back to it.
So I kind of want to pull us back to where we were talking about before, the need for this to be a conversation between both of us, right? Now I will say that I agree with you in what you said, that many men, many, not all, many are probably not interested in something like this, especially if it was marketed in this way to the men. But
let me just say one thing. That's about women having choices. 80% of marital success is determined by the choice you make.
right, and
so it's just
I love that. No, I agree with that. But I'm saying, like, the part of choosing comes on both halves, and so I think nowadays, I think there might be a generational difference now that's starting to form. I think that men now are starting to ask the questions that they weren't allowed to ask before, and I think that they're starting to, be more introspective and call out women for our stuff too, because at the same time, while we've been perpetuating emotionless quote unquote men into society, we've also been kind of perpetuating that women are like this pure faultless beings that aren't responsible for many of the things that go on in our relationships. And it's like, that's not true. There are two sides to this coin, and we both have things to work on. Like, both sides have things to work on. And so now I think what the next book should be, it should be maybe partner with another sister psychologist, and we get both sides of the conversation going, because there are men that are interested in choosing the right partner. There are men that are interested in learning about love. There are more brothers in here buying All About Love by Bell Hooks every day, and I'm surprised personally, but it's happening.
And that's a feminist book.
Exactly, it's happening.
They misunderstand it because it says all about love, but I feel you.
Okay,
yes.
so I'm saying, I think there's room now
Yes.
for us to include brothers in these conversations, in these books.
Yes.
I don't think that it's beyond them, I think that, after a certain generational gap, maybe yes, but you're not getting my dad to read this. You're you're not getting my, elders to read this, but millennials on down, maybe even some Gen Xers,
You are raising a very good point. Whether you two collaborate, and yes, more and more Black men are seeking therapy,
Yeah.
and they want to understand how to do some things differently, no different than to what my sister on the far left said about suffering. I think more and more women are realizing that they have a voice. So to the point of choosing, right?
Yeah.
My sister who was here said the words.
Yeah.
There was a part that action played different, but said the words about choosing. And we still don't necessarily choose because we feel that the men are supposed to choose us. That's suffering. So yes, there is evolvement. There's definitely room for the discussion, but I'm fine with learning more nuggets.
And it's like, obviously, sisters are gonna pick this up first.
Yeah.
They're going to,
Yeah.
obviously. That is 1,000% true. But that doesn't mean that there isn't one or two brothers that are like, I need to work on myself, and I need help picking a partner. I think we have more room to discuss how we should make better choices, period, across the board. That's all I got to say. Anyone else want to comment?
I came in late. You've been talking about the book. So the name of the book is the same as what you read.
This book right here is the Black Manual, Less Drama, More Love, A Single Woman's Guide to Choosing Mr. Right.
The Black Manual.
Single woman's guide. Okay. I didn't know the title. Because you're right. To my gentleman's point, you're right. If you see this title right here, even though I know it's coming,
Right.
But you see, let's talk love, and you're like, okay, but yes, now I see what you're saying, Christina, about the title and the marketing of that.
Yeah.
Commend you
A
for-
single woman's
for
guide.
producing something like
Ex-
that. I can't stay. I'm running late, but from my interactions with people in the family and friends, things like this are needed.
Yeah.
Because you look at what's being done to Black men in the school system, been doing it for years, in your religious institutions, even though we get sensitive about it, but it's called what it is. And so it's not helping to produce Black men who can think critically. So again, I commend you. If you wrote the book, I commend you. And it's all glad to have you this discussion. I wish I could stay.
Thank you, Bobby Jim.
Jamie H. FaceTime video.
So Dr. Shane, what's the takeaway you would want from us?
Yes, as we wrap
What's our
up.
marching orders?
Yeah, as we wrap up, because we've been here for a minute. But thank you, Dr. Shane. If you would like to give us some parting words, and if anyone has any more comments, now is your time.
I think, and I refer to Amen. Amen. Taking you to a relationship. Yeah, perfect. You got it right. The one thing working with couples has taught me, you could get everything you want if you just have a spouse. And if you can create win-wins, the type of relationship you were describing when we were with your relationship. And I just think that that's just really key, because if someone's going to come along, your ability to do that is going to determine what happens with that relationship, whether or not it becomes a marriage, whether or not it becomes a happy marriage. Happy couples are really good at identifying what their partners need and giving it to them. And those will be the
So she got installed as a queen mother.
Okay.
And so I overseas chapter returned to the African mother principle, not the father. I always talked about the way in which Africans have expressed their culture has been all just males and females have been equally empowered to govern society, right? So these are all abstract principles. It's a very different feeling as a man on the ground when your wife is chosen as a queen mother. And then as a Western informed man, it's like interesting, And then, but being where we were at, looking like the queen mother has a responsibility to improve the lives of the people And then knowing that this is my wife, nonetheless, besides the egoic, you know, expressions inside, there needs to be support. Is what I saw, because we need help. So, you know, I was like, wow, that's open to topic, and you know, because it's a different reality. It's good to talk about it and to glorify and idolize, you know, the past, but it's a different reality when you experience it. And then even in the culture, they said a lot of the men whose wives become queen mothers, they don't support them because of the economy. But that made me realize that culture is a living thing. Like it's not your opinion that matters. It's the health of the community and the culture. You know, so their decision is informed by what's best for the community. That was my brief 2-day takeaway.
Is that it? Right.
I didn't know the actual title of the book until just now. And I'm just thinking about it because I have many single friends, and I am curious to know what, I mean, based off of what you've spoken about, it seems like something that they could use that would be, you know, empowering or helpful for them to reflect on. I think that you said it in a nutshell. It's interesting that this is my husband, it's my second husband. I was married before I came. And the first marriage ended because you know, our needs changed in the relationship. Well, mine stayed the same, but his changed. Meaning, you know, he thought that he wanted a family, but he realized after we were together, not because of me, but because of his friends who all had children, and he saw their lives getting more complicated. And he realized a lot of his childhood traumas came forth, and he decided he wanted us to stay married, he just didn't want to have children. So that happened after we've been married. I was 7, 8 years. And then that was a deal breaker. I mean, that was the reason I got married. So, so that ended, and I didn't expect to remarry at all. I didn't expect to meet him or anything. But when it ended, because I was later in my years, I decided, I'm going to be very specific about what it is I want, and I wrote a list of everything that I wanted in a mate. And I was relaxed because I knew this, and this. I had a long list. It was a list. And my girlfriends laughed at me. This is what was so funny. I mean, I just had the list because I knew that I needed to stick to it. I mean, from things as simple as I'm vegan, I need to be vegan. So that, you know, I went through my parents' divorce, and health and actually food was a big part of it, like why they divorced. So I knew I didn't want that. So sickle cell, I have the trait, I can't give it to someone else. Dave, the guy, he didn't care. He had sickle cell trait. I was like, yeah, no, this is gonna work. You have sickle cell. But he, you know, also is interesting because he was a really good guy. One of his brothers had actually developed the disease and had passed from it, and he still didn't see that as an issue. You know, like I guess you know, his brother was a great person and whatever. But anyway, that was on my list. So I had like this, I mean, literally like in the teens list. And so I didn't, my girlfriends, because they laughed, you know, I still believed it was possible. You know, even though it was a long list, I thought it was possible. I didn't think it wasn't impossible, but I quickly cut people, you know, as soon as anything off that list, you know, my first conversation, we talked. I ask as many questions as I can, and I find out if any of those things on the list in the course of us in that week or 2 weeks, I find out quickly, and then I'm like, oh, you know, and I tell them why. It's not gonna work because this is not gonna move on. And my friend, like I said, they laughed. So I didn't expect to, I mean, I guess I did expect to meet someone that would satisfy the list. And I did. And so ever since then, they've been like, oh, we have to know. Okay, wait a minute. Go back, wait a minute. Tell me, I need to start a list. And so, I mean, like, literally, like, they've been,
The list works. The list. I not even to interrupt you, but my friend did the same thing, and she has a partner right now who she expects to get married to, but like she expects a ring very soon, like, and there's something to, essentially manifesting your partner and being intentional. Being intentional matters. So reading books like this matters. Like, yes, right?
yeah, he said knowing what you need and knowing what your partner, like, meeting your partner.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm like, I'm not even halfway through this book, and it's an excellent book. I'm sitting here like, wow, like, it's not one of those, this is not one of those think like a man nonsense books. This is not one of those at all. Like, this is something that if you are serious about looking for a partner, then you buy this book. Like, if you are serious about how you want to create your family, you buy this book. Or you're serious about not getting played again. And you buy this book, okay? Like, I'm dead serious. And I appreciate you for letting us take all your time.
It's been an honor. I thank you all for coming and staying. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Good night, everybody online.
Oh, will this be aired?
Yes.
Maybe I can have them watch.